Indians love food. We spend more on eating out than any other form of entertainment.
True.
And this is across the country.
Yep.
So whichever city you go to, you're going to have more or less a spectrum. And if you can fulfill the needs and desires within that spectrum, you'll succeed in those markets. Roti achangi honi chahiye. If the food is good, in our case, or in Apple's case, if the reliability is good, or security is good, or privacy is good, or the interface is good, then you're... So you have to focus on the basics. That's what I do. Farzi Café was invented to create a renaissance for Indian food and culture amongst the Indians, and then to put it on the global palette permanently. We all think, most of us, think in Hindi, even though we speak English predominantly.
True.
Most of us, when we hear a dhol, we go crazy. Something happens inside the heart. It's in our blood, across the length and breadth of this country.
Right.
When we smell a good curry made by our mother at home, it sparks nostalgia, but satiation like nothing else. The first primetime cooking show in India was Dawat by my father and Chef Majid Gill, and it used to come at 1 o'clock on Sundays on Doordarshan, when Doordarshan was the only channel the whole country could watch. I could say the Chinese also have a deep culinary philosophy, but it cannot even hold a candle to what our ancestors did. Our ancestors gave us this beautiful bounty, this beautiful gift that we must nurture now. We must take it forward because nobody else will. 9 out of 10 restaurants will shut down within a year, and 9.6 out of 10 will shut down within 18 months. And one of the biggest reasons is undercapitalization.
ये स्टडी है, मतलब ऐसा कुछ so called format नहीं है. How are you?
Very good. Good to meet you on this nice super sunny day. कुछ ज़्यादा ही sunny है.
मतलब दिल्ली की गर्मी इतनी ज़्यादा पड़ती है. You are born and raised in Delhi?
Born and raised in Delhi. Love this city more than any other city in the country. And if I were to live anywhere in India, it would be in Delhi. If I were to live anywhere outside of India, it'd probably be Dubai.
Oh, you have restaurants there as well.
Yes.
How is the entire ball game different? Like in Delhi, compare it to Delhi and rest of India, and then India with the global restaurants.
The whole of India is fairly similar, especially if you go to the metros. If you go to Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, Calcutta, Chennai, Hyderabad, these wonderful cities, more or less you're not going to have a major dichotomy in tastes or preferences or desires or needs of a consumer. They're all people that enjoy food. Indians love food. We spend more on eating out than any other form of entertainment.
True.
And this is across the country. So whichever city you go to, you're going to have more or less a spectrum. And if you can fulfill the needs and desires within that spectrum, you'll succeed in those markets. What is different is outside of India, where there's a major change. The spectrum is much more varied, or perhaps it's a different spectrum altogether.
True.
And there's major dichotomy. So what, for example, I would find it hard to sell in India may sell easy over there.
Really?
What I may find to sell easy in India will be impossible to sell over there. So
any example of the first one, which may be
harder?
very difficult?
I'll tell you what's very easy to sell. So there's a dish that we started at Farzi Café, and Farzi Café is obviously a brand that is most prevalent around the world. And it's called Dal Chawal Arancini. So you know how Farzi is. It's all about mixing global dishes with Indian twist, or Indian dishes with a global twist. So this Dal Chawal Arancini was based on an arancini ball, which is fairly popular in Italy. It's leftover risotto. Next morning, the mother of the house, crumbs it and then fries it. It's yummy. It becomes even more tasty and it's delicious. So I thought, that's a rice ball. What is our rice dish? Dal chawal. So usko ek arancini banate hain. And it became, to my shock, it is the #1 selling dish for us in Canada, in the US, in all over the Middle East, which is a heavy meat-eating society. Obviously all over India, in England. So any part of the world where we opened Farzi Café, for some reason, the arancini is resonating hard despite being purely vegetarian and perhaps being the most humble of all dishes on our Farzi menu. And so that's shocked me in a very pleasant way. So we are exporting dal chawal.
But did you expect when you will actually launch it?
No, not dal chawal. Well, I was going to put it anyway, whether they liked it or not. Because it's part of my signature. And so the key goal of opening Farzi Café was to make Indian food cool amongst the youth and the people of India, because it was losing importance and mind space in the minds of our Indian consumers within India, which is shocking. How do you export your culture to the world? How do you have pride in your own traditions and your culture?
colonial hangover में आज भी बैठे हुए हैं.
खत्म हो रहा है, thank God. मेरे बच्चे नहीं है.
I feel so. Yeah, मुझे भी लगता है थोड़ा बहुत खत्म हो रहा है.
उनसे आगे निकल गया बस. अब क्या कीजिए
makes sense.
Hindustan is the most important country of this century. This is not the Asian century. This is the Indian century. Mark my words. I can give you a whole podcast on this.
Let's do that.
I'm an India file. I'm a nationalist.
India file, that's a name.
I'm an India file, but I'm also a person who believes in the concept and the philosophy of India, what India is. And I truly believe that we have a culture that is second to none. I think we have to gain more confidence in it. We have to gain more pride in it. That's what I do. Farzi Café was invented to create a renaissance for Indian food and culture amongst the Indians, and then to put it on the global palette permanently. So first we started with India, we opened our restaurants, we created a phenomena in a way, where Indian food became cool and hip.
Yep.
And now through Farzi Cafes around the world, we're trying to take it to the rest of the world.
यार जितने आपके जितने भी रेस्टोरेंट हैं, जितने भी मतलब लाइक द मोस्ट पॉपुलर, इसमें आई गेस फर्जी कैफे सबसे ज्यादा स्प्रेड आउट है.
Yes.
एंड नॉट ओनली इन मेट्रोज, ये नॉन मेट्रोज में भी बहुत
Yes.
ज्यादा पॉपुलर है.
Yes.
व्हाई डू यू थिंक इट बिकेम सो पॉपुलर? अग्रीड, यू मेड इट कूल, यू मेड इंडियन फूड कूल, बट जहां पे I'll come back to the same word, colonial hangover, youth में, Gen Zs में हैं आज भी, they would actually listen to English music more than the Hindustani classical. Why do you think it became actually successful?
Because it relied on something that always existed within. You can't instill anything into a human being in terms of desires or wants or enjoyment things. But you can harbor the development of it. So it was always there. It was just hidden away under piles of colonial hangover and nonsense. We all think, most of us think in Hindi, even though we speak English predominantly.
True.
Most of us, when we hear a dhol, we go crazy. Something happens inside the heart. It's in our blood, across the length and breadth of this country.
Right.
When we hear, when we smell a good curry made by our mother at home, it sparks nostalgia, but satiation like nothing else. So it's always been there, but it's been packaged poorly. So I only relied on something that was already there. I didn't invent it. I didn't instill it. I harbored the development of it. And that's what Farzi Café relied on, but it came from a sense of purpose. It came a sense of responsibility. My father always thought that there's no Chinese, Japanese, American, German who's going to come and promote us or our culture. It has to be us. My father devoted 40 years of his life to the propagation, proliferation and documentation of Indian food. That's all he did his whole life. The government should give him a posthumous Bharat Ratna. उस टाइम तो दिया नहीं जब जिंदे थे, अब देना चाहिए. Or nobody deserves it more than him in terms of Indian culture from a food perspective.
The food, man. No.
So he's been doing festivals and putting Indian food on the global palette since while I was a kid, when I was maybe a teenager.
Yeah.
And seeing him is what got me into the industry. But that's another. Maybe I'm sure we'll discuss that later on. But so I just latched onto something that was always there within us Indians, and I made it cool to be proud of it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He wrote the book called Prasad, right?
He did.
And it's like the OG cookbook in the Indian context.
Some
Lot
call
of
it the Bible.
Sorry, yeah, it's considered as a Bible. Like a lot of recipes, but how should I say? They're crazy. These are crazy recipes. These are unique recipes. Collaborative recipes.
Everyone has a chef's name before it. My father was very clear. He was not a journalist. He was a historian he was not a cook. He was a journalist and a historian. He was basically India's first syndicated column on food ever was in the Illustrated Weekly by my father. He started off as a journalist, then segued into food because his passion for it and his palate second to none. Genetically, I hope I got at least a sliver of it. But his palate was what got him into this. So first syndicated column, the first primetime cooking show in India was Dawat by my father and Chef Majid Gill. And it used to come at 1 o'clock on Sundays on Doordarshan, when Doordarshan was the only channel the whole country could watch.
So true.
So the OG in terms of food writing, the OG in terms of food documentation and putting Indian food on the global palette. I'm very proud of my father and the OG when it came to a TV show. I'm a very, very proud son. So
apart from food, what you have inherited from him? Let's talk about that. You may have spoken a lot about कि food कहाँ से आया, उनसे इतना मिला ये वो. But of course, father-son का एक relation भी अलग होता है. You may have inherited a lot of other things other than food and the love for food. What are
Temperament.
those? That's necessary. इस धंधे के लिए, इस business के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है.
No, his temperament was still better than mine. He was a champion mentality. I don't think I have that level. Almost, I think genetically I got a bit too much from him.
Okay.
I'm a bit too similar to him. But I think from a non-genetic, from a non-DNA perspective, a sense of responsibility and pride towards our Indian food. Like I told you, and my father, I didn't, again, my father was an Indian, proud Indian guy, and he used to hate it. Why he got into food is because he used to hate it when these Westerners used to say, Indian food is only about 3 gravies and you mix them and you get every curry, every permutation, combination. And they didn't realize that this country has the deepest culinary philosophy out of any culinary culture in the human race. We have more versatility, we have more variety, we have more distinct thought processes.
और एक cuisine नहीं है, मतलब n number, आप 100 किलोमीटर में पूरी हर डायलेक्ट के साथ साथ खाने का टेस्ट भी चेंज हो जाता है.
Completely चेंज जाता है. So, but more importantly, we have the deepest culinary philosophy of any cuisine in the world. We have more variety of vegetarian food in Gujarat and Rajasthan than the rest of the world put together. Forget about going to the other parts of this country. 2 states हमारे वेस्ट में, दोनों वेस्टर्न स्टेट्स का नाम लिया मैंने.
बाकी भी तो आ ही नहीं रहे.
बाकी तो मैं छोड़ो, मैं के नीचे वो हमारा साउथ इंडियन मैजिक विद आवर डोसास एंड इडलीज एंड वडास, फॉरगेट दैट. वो तो इट्स अ सेंसेशन इन इटसेल्फ. Just 2 of our states have more vegetarian variety than the rest of the world put together. So, and the scientific approach. Listen, we're probably the oldest culture. Our Rig Veda is the oldest philosophical text ever written. Some say 3,500 years. I think some people say even over 5,000 years old. Point is that they had a lot of time. They had good weather. Okay, they could eat berries.
Global warming था नहीं.
बर्फ नहीं पड़ती थी. आपको गर्मी लगती थी तो चलो आप शेड में सो जाओगे. आपको मतलब you don't have to die. So they got that opportunity, and nature gave us that ability to focus on things like beautiful food, and we built this great culinary tradition and culture over millennia, not over centuries, over millennia. And the philosophy got built in upon type of body, the Ayurvedic style.
True.
So there's a lot of science behind our food. The kind of body constitution that you have, Ayurveda tells you to eat food according to that. Which culture on earth you can name that does that? Not even one. I could say the Chinese also have a deep culinary philosophy, but it cannot even hold a candle to what our ancestors did. Our ancestors gave us this beautiful bounty, this beautiful gift that we must nurture now. We must take it forward because nobody else will.
True. Just be honest on the next question. Since you mentioned,
I've been honest throughout.
No, I know. It may be slightly difficult to be honest on this one. क्या आज के ज़माने में बिजनेस को रन करने के लिए ये फिलॉसफी प्रैक्टिकल है कि you put all the nutrition here, there and everything? क्योंकि कई बार हो सकता है वो टेस्ट से कॉम्प्रोमाइज करे.
नहीं, I don't think. No, absolutely not. इंडिया में तो आप टेस्ट रूल्स. So the philosophy that I'm talking about is something that we've got as a gift. Do I use that in any of my restaurants? To some extent. It can never become the central theme.
Agreed.
It could become. It can't become. Let me say, in 2024, if you want to have a successful restaurant, you should not make it the central theme. In 2030, if you want to make a change in the world, you should make this the central theme.
Is that the plan?
And not just in India.
Is that the plan?
If I take this whole concept of body type and the food based on that to England tomorrow, it'll do very well. I think I gave away a great idea to people that are watching.
It makes sense actually.
Yeah, so
it makes sense.
Easy to sell some of this holistic approach to Westerners today. But in India, we're still a slightly more nascent dining culture. Okay. Dining culture in terms of restauranting. Our food culture is the oldest in the world. But this whole modern way of eating food in restaurants is still not as deeply permeated because we consume food outside in urban India 3 to 4 times a week, whereas in other parts of the world it's 2 to 3 times a day. Even breakfast is eaten outside, right? So our dining out is still not as frequent as the rest of the world, especially in Southeast Asia. They don't even have kitchen connections. There's no gas cylinder in that. There's no way to cook. They eat their breakfast, they either brought in, now these delivery sources are there, or they go and eat out every single meal.
But don't you feel sad about...
No, I don't. It's my business, how can I feel sad?
Agreed. But at the end of the day, keep the restaurateur aside, consider ZK as a normal guy who's just like chilling inside his home. You wouldn't want to eat like all the meals actually outside.
I don't. I love eating food outside. I truly believe कि घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर. लेकिन मेरे घर में अब खाना बहुत अच्छा बनता है. और काफी सालों से अच्छा. My dadi started this whole. My father got into the business because of my dadi. I got into this business because of my dadi and my father. And as a result, I would say that my best memories of food or are all around A, home food, and B, especially my dadi's food.
अब वो क्या था मतलब let's fanboy about that.
So I'll tell you, we're a Punjabi household, but the number one dish that I remember of my dadi's is actually a Kashmiri dish called a rishta kofta.
Oh man, rista.
Now you know how laborious it is.
Yeah,
it takes the whole
oh man, you have
it.
पूरे दिन हथौड़ा मार के रेशे फाड़ने पड़ते हैं, then उसको गोला बना के आप उसको उबालते हो, and then उसको यखनी में आप डालते
हो, यखनी में या रिश्ता ग्रेवी में. Now, it's a very laborious thing. She used to take 2 days to build it, but I still remember that's the one dish that I remember running back from my bus stop to my home because it used to be made only for lunch. It was a heavy dish. It was made for lunch, and we used to be excited about it for a whole day. And it was a Punjabi household that made a kick-ass Kashmiri dish, and it was totally her own recipe. Obviously, it was not as elaborate as you would get from a Vazwan.
Agreed.
But it was damn good. And the flavor was her own. It had some of that North Indian touch to it. It had robustness to it. It had a lot of oodles of ghee in it. It was a dish that was, I guess, the best memory of food since the day I was born. And she used to make it maybe once a month, but maybe even less frequent than that. It could have been, I don't remember now. I think it was probably even less than once a month. It was probably once in 2 months.
2 months, yeah.
But because it took time, right?
बहुत ज़्यादा मेहनत है. मतलब वो देखने में वाज़मान में खाने में बहुत easy लगता है कि बस खा ही तो रहे. And same is the case with goshtaba also.
Yeah,
same meatball but in a different gravy.
Different gravy. So वो सफेद ग्रेवी में होती है और रिश्ता लाल ग्रेवी में होता है.
गोश्तबा एंड होता है, मतलब वो पूरे वाज़वान का सबसे एंड डिश होता है.
Absolutely. So that is the one memory, and I think because of my dadi is why my father got into this. He said this on record, so I should not say because. I think I know because of her he got into it, and because of him, obviously, I got into it. All sons are usually infatuated with their father. My father was larger than life. He traveled the world. He was building these great restaurants. There was a time when in India, out of the top 10 restaurants, 5 were built by one man. So I was immensely proud of him. He used to get a lot of respect, and I used to notice all this. So in my preteen years, I decided because of him and him because of my dadi, I decided to get into the food business. And I really thought that whatever I do, whatever steps I take from an educational perspective or a business knowledge perspective would be to arm myself with the knowledge to be able to build a restaurant business, which is what I do today. So there's a thread to this, but the dish that perhaps was the foundation of even the yarn that built that thread.
There's a Kashmiri dish called a rista.
There's a Kashmiri dish called a rishta kofta.
Wow, क्या बात है. क्या लगता है मतलब how's the future of the entire business? Like not only yours, the entire industry as a whole. Because एक तो food delivery has become a very different set. Cloud kitchen बहुत बड़ा एक part बन चुका है. सब जगह online जितने भी आप stores देखो वहाँ पे है. Plus now people are actually willing to go out. Plus they are also ordering in. How do you see the entire industry change from the time you started maybe in 2012 until now? 12 years
so first let me give a little bit of numbers. I'm a little bit of a numbers guy, so pardon the geekiness, but it's important to know how important and valuable our industry is. And firstly, we should be called an industry.
It is.
We should actually have our own cabinet minister, but that's another story. We really need a cabinet minister for the hospitality sector because it's huge. It's between 2 and 3% of the country's GDP. Now the world's 5th largest economy. It is the 2nd highest employer of human capital in India after agriculture, with 10 million people directly employed, and I would say at least another 10 million indirectly employed through ancillary industries. As a result, it's a very important sector, and it deserves the respect and the attention from the authorities. I think the most important thing to understand is that it is also the number one and primary form of entertainment for Indians.
True.
Indians spend more on eating out than on any other form of entertainment.
Makes
it's
sense.
40 times larger than Bollywood. 40 times. That's 4,000%. Right? So it's basically Indians spend more on eating out and spend maximum percentage of their gross disposable income on restaurants and on delivery than on anything else. So it's we love it. Indians love eating out. We have great restaurants, we have great variety of food, we have great regional food, we have great international brands now. And as a result, this ecosystem has become very robust. So the growth is going to be amazing. By some estimates, it's 12-15%. In my opinion, it's larger than that, so 18, 19, 20%, which means every 3 to 4 years, you're doubling in size. So the industry is growing very robustly. I believe restaurants are the final bastion of hope for human offline social engagement. And I also believe the delivery business right now has got the maximum scope for growth within India than in any other geography. Right now, you're less than 10% of the Chinese market, less than 10% of the American market. You have not even scratched the surface in delivery, in restaurants and delivery.
Really?
But let's talk about, you have at least 100x upside left in delivery. And I would say a similar number, slightly smaller number in restaurants, because restaurants are still a more mature platform than delivery at the moment. But the potential is huge. You're looking at an industry that could pretty much double every 3 to 4 years, and is going to continue to grow. Indians will continue to eat out. We just, as restaurateurs and delivery kitchen people, we need to make sure people always feel safe eating out. They don't get sick. No Delhi belly. I hope Delhi belly is now no longer a phenomenon. I don't think it is, by the way. I don't remember the last time that I got sick eating out at a restaurant.
Same as the case with me.
Right?
I don't remember.
Probably you won't remember in over a decade, you would not have gotten sick. Systems are good. FSSAI is doing a damn good job. Shout out to FSSAI.
मेरा पेट ढीठ है.
पत्थर
हजम. जो खिला दो सब चल जाता है.
मेरा नहीं है ऐसा. So मैं भी हाँ तो I.
You have to be cautious, right? A lot of people.
I developed. I think I have starting some enzymes.
Okay.
Over years, and I'm now slightly older. So what's happened is that it's not as robust a gut as it used to be. So I have to be a little careful, but I don't think about it ever. I can't have lactose. I can't have milk. I'm lactose intolerant, so I avoid dairy as much as I can. But मैं cheat करता हूँ almost रोज़. फिर मैं उसको झेलता हूँ. But love for food prevails over all else. And ढीठ है ना, ढीठ क्या?
हाँ, होना चाहिए.
So yeah, I think it's it's a responsibility, because people, when they come to a restaurant, they are sharing their life's precious moments.
True.
It could be a proposal to their future wife.
Yeah.
It could be Dada Dadi's
50th anniversary. Yeah.
It could be a parent's anniversary. It could be a son's first birthday or a daughter's first graduation from college. It's a huge responsibility, and you have to take it as such. You have to make sure that your customer walks out of your restaurant happier than they walked in. If you can ensure that, you won. And I think the restaurant business is a business of passion. It's not a 9 to 5. When everybody else is chilling on weekends, we're working our hardest. When everybody's sleeping at 10:30, 11 o'clock, our dinner service has just started. So you're looking at a sacrifice business. It's the ultimate sacrifice. It's all obviously very rewarding.
But that's not the case with the West or maybe in Europe. मतलब यहाँ अक्सर एलिगेशन लगाए जाते हैं कि जो फूड हॉस्पिटैलिटी इंडस्ट्री है ये बहुत ज़्यादा स्ट्रिक्ट है, टाइम का बहुत कंसर्न है, पूरे 24 घंटे की नौकरी है. बट
24 घंटे की नहीं है, बट
मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा लेबोरियस है, जो कि यूरोप में और वेस्ट में नहीं है. Should we actually learn that, or they should learn from us?
No, they should learn hospitality from us. They don't know
hospitality. Which makes sense.
Atithi Devo Bhava, we invented that stuff.
और हम हर इंडियन दिल से मानता है, ये बस एक डायलॉग बाजी के लिए नहीं है.
हम रोज सवेरे उठ के हमारी हर रेस्टोरेंट में ये बोला जाता है. मेरा कोई भी अगर मैं कोई भी स्पीच देता हूँ अपने रेस्टोरेंट्स में, तो सबसे पहले मैं बोलता हूँ अतिथि देवो भव. ये तो हमारा कल्चर है, ये तो हमारे को खैरात में मिला है अपने पुश्तों से, अपने एंसेस्टर्स से, and we have to honor it. These are traditions. If you have no traditions, what culture do you have left?
True.
You have to honor them. You have to hold on to them as much as we can. That's why I fight for Indian food all the time. And they have to learn from us. They don't know it. When in India, don't look eastwards, don't look westwards, look inwards. And the moment we start realizing that, we'll gain more confidence in our culture. I think we are a level above in most things. We just, over the past 250, 300 years, lost our way because we were colonized. Now we're getting out of that. We've learned the art of self-governance. We're now an independent country, 5th largest economy in the world, 3rd or 4th strongest military in the world. By 2030, India's world's largest urban consumer base. By 2050, the world's 2nd or 1st largest economy. So we have a lot to be proud of, and we should maintain that. And I don't think we have that much to learn from them as much as they have to learn from us. Not only do I not think that, I have firm belief that they have far more to learn from us than we have from them. And it's just that we got to begin to accept that. We got to begin to believe that. If you don't believe, it's not going to happen.
Agreed.
So, but the overall hospitality industry in general in India is burgeoning. It's very promising, but it's also full of risks. Is the highest morbidity rate, so highest failure rate business on earth. On earth, 9 out of 10 restaurants will shut down within a year, and 9.6 out of 10 will shut down within 18 months. And one of the biggest reasons is undercapitalization. रेस्टोरेंट तो खोल दिया, लेकिन जेस्टेशन नहीं झेल पाए. हर महीने का जो बर्न है वो आपने प्लान नहीं करा, और अगर आपने वर्किंग कैपिटल रिक्वायरमेंट्स को लिए
Agreed.
arrange nahi kara, so you will unfortunately fail. But also it's very rewarding. It is very hard work, it is very high risk, but it's also arguably the most rewarding industry that I can think of, because you're making people happy. We're in the happiness providing business.
Let's talk about the
That's what we
first day when you started at the restaurant. How was the experience? Which was it? Kahan pe? Kaun sa shehar? Kaun sa time? Just share the story, because I really want to dig deep into your brain and actually see the imagery. Ki kya tha? Were you like slogging day in day out into the place?
The first business I ever started in the food space was actually a small little cart, a kiosk that used to sell only two items, a galauti burger and a ulte tawe ka paratha. It was called the Paratha Company. I started the first store.
Not galauti and paratha, ulte tawe ka paratha, galauti
paratha and galauti kebab.
Acha.
वही
burger bhi tha.
No burger.
अच्छा, no burger.
उल्टे तवे का पराठा ओरिजिनल और गलौटी कबाब, या आप प्लेट में ले लो या आप रोल बना लो बस, और एक वेज वर्जन, तो 3 आइटम होते थे, वेज कबाब, नॉन वेज कबाब और उल्टे तवे का पराठा बस। सारा का सारा खाना सेंट्रली बनता था, फ्रीज होता था, कार्ट्स पे जाता था, कार्ट्स के अंदर फ्रिज लगा होता था, उसमें ठंडा रहता था, वो उसको एक एक करके बनाता था। और पहला खोला था हमने डिफेंस कॉलोनी में, एंड इट वाज माय फर्स्ट बिजनेस ऑफ माय लाइफ। माय चाचा गिव मी द लोन, I remember it cost me I think 8 lakhs or something, 2005 or 6, 2005. So 8 lakhs was not a lot of money even then.
तब गलौटी कबाब और ये सब दिल्ली में उतना पॉपुलर नहीं था।
My father had popularized it through hotels and through food festivals.
Yeah, but in general street food में उतना नहीं था।
बिल्कुल भी नहीं था, एक भी रेस्टोरेंट नहीं था शायद। I was the first guy to do it. And हमने खोला उसको, 5, 7, 8, 10 खोल दिए। पहला दिन मुझे याद है, मैं खड़ा हुआ था, इनफैक्ट मैंने अपने इंस्टाग्राम पे उसकी फोटो भी डाली उस दिन की। मेरी चाची ने मुझे फोटो भेजी, मैं चाची ने टेकन द फोटो पहले दिन की। आई वाज लुकिंग लाइक अ लिटिल किड, यहाँ पे वो जो हिप वाला फोन होता है ना, वो केस, वो लगा के, क्या बकवास, मतलब इट एज्ड मी।
वो स्टाइल
that gives away my vintage. That photo gives away my vintage. So 2005-06 we opened that, lot of fun initially, but then I realized this is not for me. I can't open these on carts, you can't control, बाहर धुआं आ रहा है, मिट्टी आ रही है, मैं क्या हाइजीन मेंटेन कर रहा हूँ, एक आदमी रखा है, वो 2 मिनट के लिए चला जाए, कस्टमर खड़ा है। It was a very hard thing for me to tackle, so I shut it and I started this brand called Punjab Grill and Street Foods of India in food court outlets. So first start was a cart, so anybody watching, they can know everybody starts small. I started with a cart, then I moved on to food court outlets, and then of course we are where we are now.
But Punjab Grill is still famous in food courts.
Punjab Grill started as a food court. No, it's no longer in food courts. We shut it. Before I opened my first restaurant in Ambience Mall in Gurgaon, which was a full large-scale fine dining restaurant or premium casual restaurant, it used to be a food court outlet. So we shut those because it made no sense. But the name was so cool and the brand was so cool, I thought I'll convert that into a restaurant. So we tied up with some investors and we opened Punjab Grill and became a runaway success. I remember the first day that I opened, we ran out of napkins. We ran out of cloth napkins and we started giving tissue, and I was livid about the fact that I didn't I was livid at the team also, but I was more livid with myself.
Plan नहीं किया था कि इतना सक्सेसफुल हो जाए।
उसके बाद खाना बाहर लाइन लग गई, 2007 की
फर्स्ट डे की बात है।
पहले दिन बाय जिग्स कारा लिखा होता बॉस।
अच्छा, मतलब
आपने बाहर दरवाजे पे बाय जिग्स कारा लिख दिया तो आप फिर वेट फॉर द फायरवर्क्स, एंड लाइन लग गई 1 घंटे। लंच में खोला नहीं, हमने डिनर में खोला था, हमने शायद 1-2 दिन लंच में नहीं खोला, हम तैयार ही नहीं थे। पार्टी करी, लॉन्च पार्टी कर दी, सबको पता चल गया। उस टाइम कोई इंटरनेट नहीं होता था, कुछ भी नहीं होता था, वर्ड ऑफ माउथ, सबसे क्लीन एंड ऑर्गेनिक फॉर्म ऑफ मार्केटिंग। एंड डिनर में खोला, शायद 7 बजे खोला होगा, और बाहर लाइन लग गई और मेरे आई गॉट नर्वस द एंटायर इवनिंग। I was either making calls to vendors to make sure food reaches on time, or I was calling the laundry guy to भैया मेरे नैपकिन भेज दे कि नैपकिन खत्म हो गए, या मैं वहाँ खड़े होकर ऑर्डर बाग कर रहा था। और कम से कम समझ के चलो पहले 6 महीने तो मैं रोज़ वहाँ जाता था, और अगर मैं 6 घंटे या 8 घंटे उस रेस्टोरेंट में होता था, उसमें 2-3 घंटे तो किचन में होते थे। तो आई हैव डन एवरीथिंग, आई अंडरस्टैंड द बिजनेस फ्रॉम अ वेरी ग्रास रूट लेवल।
और वो हाथ गंदे करना जरूरी है हर चीज में, राइट? तभी शायद धंधा।
आई रिमेंबर माय इक्विपमेंट मैन्युफैक्चरर, क्योंकि पहले दिन कुछ ना कुछ टूट ही रहा होता है, तो इक्विपमेंट मैनेजर बड़ा अच्छा आदमी था, मेरे को नाम उनका याद नहीं आ रहा है अनफॉर्चुनेटली, आई विश आई कुड गिव हिम अ शाउट आउट, बट आई स्टिल रिमेंबर ही केम एंड ही सेड, दिस इज द फर्स्ट टाइम आई हैव सीन अ प्रमोटर stand in the kitchen and take orders and be running the pass. I had a young team, I had a great team, but they were nobody. पहला दिन है, 100 रेस्टोरेंट खोल दो ना, उसमें भी पहले दिन पे fuck ups होते हैं। Sorry for that language, I don't know if you have to bleep it out. उसमें screw ups होते ही होते हैं। So we got, I still remember that day. It was literally that situation where I thought I failed my father, because his name was on the door I'm like, shit, I didn't give, half the people went without paying because we were not ready to give the bill on time. खाना ही नहीं बनेगा. मैंने बोला आप जाओ यार, मैं आपका बिल नहीं दे सकता आपको, आप चले जाओ. Literally I would say 25% लोग उस दिन, शायद उससे भी ज़्यादा परसेंट, मुझे याद नहीं है, वो बिना बिल दे चले गए.
But so much learning.
Next day we were okay, and next day we did not focus कि हम बिल दे दे टाइम पे. हमारा ये फोकस था कि नैपकिन पूरे होने चाहिए. हमारा ये फोकस था कि खाने की जो टाइम डिलीवरी 15 मिनट के अंदर खाना टेबल पे होना चाहिए वो हो जाए, वो फोकस था. पैसे के बारे में तो हमने, मैं आज भी नहीं सोचता था. I have to run a business, but if you take care of the basics, everything else takes care of itself. If your customer is not happy, you might extract money from him on one day. He or she will not come back the next. So how do you build a long-term business? You have to focus on the product. Roti अच्छी होनी चाहिए. If the food is good, in our case, or in Apple's case, if the reliability is good, or security is good, or privacy is good, or the interface is good, then so you have to focus on the basics. And you've taken me down memory lane. It was a good fun day. It was very hectic. I remember it being, I came back home thinking I'm a failure. I thought I've put my father's name down, but eventually we improved. And then of course, Punjab Grill has become a large company. I don't own Punjab Grill anymore. I exited that company in 2012. And that's how I started this company. So I'm actually glad I exited that company. And I'm happy now that this is a company that I fully control, and I have great hopes and expectations from it.
That makes sense. What's your message to all those young budding? Because since you were saying, अभी बस 2 क्वेश्चन पहले, कि अभी 100x का स्कोप है, अभी इंडिया में 100x का एटलीस्ट रेस्टोरेंट में स्कोप है. मुझे जो लगता है वो 100x में एक सब्सटैंशियल वॉल्यूम मेट्रो से आएगा, बट नॉन मेट्रोस टियर 2 टियर 3 से बहुत बड़ा, वो एक बहुत बड़ा मार्केट है जिसको अभी बहुत ज्यादा लोगों ने टैप नहीं किया. देयर आर फास्ट फूड चेन्स, ऑफ कोर्स KFC, डोमिनोज, पिज्जा हट है, बट सो कॉल्ड बुटीक रेस्टोरेंट्स ये सब नहीं है. आई गेस, डू यू एग्री टू द पॉइंट?
या,
कि वहां से ग्रोथ आएगा.
वहां से ग्रोथ शायद मेट्रो से कई गुना ज्यादा आएगा. We look at Farzi Café, we're in about 16 cities.
Yeah.
Just last month we opened in Bhopal and Varanasi.
Okay.
So, in fact, we're in 3 states of MP. We're in Indore, we're in Raipur, and we're in Bhopal. And we're opening more now. Even just in MP, and just about one heartland of
Raipur,
India.
Chhattisgarh, हाँ मतलब पुराना MP.
Gwalior. So,
I'm from Jabalpur, यार. Please open one in Jabalpur.
Sorry, हाँ.
I'm born and raised there.
यार जबलपुर की हमारी बात चल रही है शायद.
मेरे पास इतना पैसा नहीं तो मैं ले लेता.
I saw some emails regarding Jabalpur. So my point is that the metros are important, but they have reached saturation point. There are a lot of restaurants there already. The real depth of India and the real width of India from a market perspective will come from tier 2 and 3. Perhaps even tier 3 cities. I know eventually definitely tier 3. I'm even talking about the mid to short term. You'll see major expansion happening over here. Okay. So we're seeing some great numbers. Some of our, tier 2 city restaurants are performing better than metros. There's still infancy. There's nascency in the market. There are still lesser options. Eventually, you'll see some level of saturation being achieved here also. But the first mover advantage always there. So for us at Farzi Café, we have built this brand for Indians. So we're going to go to every nook and cranny. And let me put it this way: it's not rocket science to sell Indian food to Indians. So you serve a good meal, you serve it in a beautiful environment, you take care of the needs of multiple generations, especially in tier 2 cities, and you'll have a evergreen business in the food space. So for us, I think so firstly, my message to people getting into the businesses: do not just look at the metros, look at the entire nation.
For example, consider like a young kid, maybe in 25, 30-year-old. Maybe he has done some work, he wants to quit and start his own restaurant business, maybe like a small cafe. क्या मेहनत करना है, किसी को कुछ नहीं पता रहता. मतलब यू मे हैव अ लेगेसी जहाँ पे फूड थोड़ा बहुत हो, रेस्टोरेंट, कईयों के पास कुछ नहीं है, उनको पता ही नहीं है. हाउ शुड आई एक्चुअली अप्रोच इट?
सो फर्स्टली यू हैव टू बी वेरी क्लियर दैट यू आर पैशनेट अबाउट इट. This business
सिर्फ धंधे के लिए नहीं करना, अगर पैशन हो तो करना.
नहीं, my father always told me, figure out something you'll do for free, then figure out a way to make money from it.
Makes sense.
Or a career out of it. So if you're getting into it for the right reasons, if you are passionate about it, if you see yourself doing this for the rest of your life, if you are not making it an extension of your drawing room or not getting into it for the glamour quotient, then you should do it. But if you're getting into it because you think, oh, it's a very cool business, oh, I'll get married because I have a restaurant, so my future wife's father will allow me to get married to her.
Does that happen?
Half my franchisee requests are from kids wanting to get married, and because they've not done anything, they want to open a restaurant so that the father-in-law allows the marriage. Half.
Oh man.
Yeah, so it's a very common thing. So if you're getting it for that reason, don't even bother. You'll fail. You'll lose your shirt. very often. So it's important to get into it for the right reasons. It's a passion play. It's not a 9 to 5. It's a lifestyle choice. It's not a career. It's even beyond a career. It's a lifestyle choice because, like I said, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of risk, but a lot of reward. So I would tell whoever wants to get into it, and I've said this in many interviews in the past, get into it for the right reason. It should be a passion play. If it's not a passion play, the chances of success radically fall. So it's not an extension of your drawing room. अपने घर में drawing room अच्छा बना लो. एक restaurant मत खोलो 3-4 crore रुपए लगा के. Don't open a restaurant. If you're doing it to become cool or to gain social standing or climb the social ladder, don't. Do it because you think I have a product that is great. You think because there's a market opportunity where you inhabit, in the market that you inhabit, that you see there's a viable business case. Do not do it for any other reason but for passion and because you see a valid business case. Any other reason, you can still succeed, but the chances fall radically.
I was talking to a very close friend and I just told him कि यार ऐसा scene है. He said कि his dad used to have a business, but he said एक question ज़रूर पूछना जो मुझे भी बड़ा interesting question लगा कि what happens is a new restaurant opens up, you go to the restaurant, you enjoy the food and everything, you may go there again, but वो बोलता है ना economics में एक law है, law of diminishing marginal utility, it keeps on following.
Diminishing returns.
नहीं diminishing marginal
and marginal utility. Yeah.
तो जितना आपको satisfaction मिलेगा, it keeps on declining if you go if you consume one dish again. How do you tackle that in a business जहाँ पे menu same है? मतलब you of course change the menu, but after a certain point of time, how do you ensure कि same आदमी वापस से आए? Hospitality and सब कुछ अपनी जगह है, but how do you tackle the food aspect of it?
So I'll come to this point second. First, let me give you a little research that I've done, and this has been shared online in many places, and I believe in it, and my own research proves this. When a person comes to your restaurant for the first time, there's a 30% chance he or she will come back for the second time.
Okay.
If they come for the second time and they go happy, this is considering that they've gone happy, there's a 40% chance that he or she will come back a third time. If he or she comes back a third time, you've got them for life. There's a 70% chance that they will keep coming back. So you have to get them to come three times. उसके बाद चौथी, पांचवी, 10वीं, 100वीं बार solved है. But अगर पहली 3 बारी में से experience perfect नहीं गया या बहुत अच्छा नहीं गया, so this percentage falls drastically.
क्या ये reason है कि बहुत सारे जो fast food corners और ये होते हैं उन्होंने अपना loyalty बना के रखा है कि तीसरी बार आओगे तो आपको चाय मिलेगी?
Stickiness.
ये reason है? हो सकता है maybe?
Loyalty is the best way. Loyalty programs is the best way to ensure consumer stickiness. Why do you think the best brands do it? Why do you think most established brands in the world have a loyalty program? Starbucks. मैं Starbucks इतना consume करता हूँ. I'm a coffee addict. अभी भी coffee पी रहा हूँ. I need my coffee fix, but I don't go to Starbucks for their coffee. I can have better coffee at home because I have great beans. I have a roasting machine, all that. Yeah. But I go for the overall experience, the loyalty. I give my, that lady knows me. I've been going there for the past 2 साल से जा रहा हूँ. मैं अगर 1 महीना नहीं जाता तो वो कहते हैं सर आप 1 महीने से नहीं आए. So a lot of those things happen.
और उसका कोई कमीशन भी सेट नहीं है, लेकिन वो बस.
और मेरा हर 10वां कॉफी फ्री होता है. But I don't go for that. I'm not necessarily going for the 10th free copy. It's 10% off. You think about it, 10%
logically
it's not a really very big discount. It's the whole thing. It's the whole stickiness that they built. So I firmly believe in a loyalty program. The massive loyalty program has now got about 7 lakh people. That's a lot of people. These are people that have dined at our restaurants and chosen, incorporation into our loyalty program so we can reach out to them. They've agreed to sign up, and many of them keep coming back. And we offer some really good ideas. We offer some good discounts. But I think the food business requires faster innovation than any other form of business. Technology में भी 1 साल बाद वो phone change करते हैं. In fact, Apple तो कभी 2 साल design नहीं change करता. अंदर थोड़ी सी
बस नाम अलग कर देते हैं.
हर 2 महीने बाद या हर 1 महीने बाद या हर 15 दिन बाद Zara and H&M change their clothing to create that format.
Even the display and everything.
In the restaurant business, the need to change and the need to innovate is even more than in the fashion or the tech business. Because you can cease to be relevant in 6 months. Every 6 months, if you don't have radical innovations, whether it be through your cocktail or your food menu, or through some form of new pop-up or a food festival,
yeah.
or change in ambience every couple of years. If you don't do these things, you can very rapidly lose mind space. So the need for innovation in the restaurant space is perhaps even greater than in the fashion space. So they call fast fashion, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you the need for change and rapid innovation in restaurants is even greater than
But
that.
ऐसा क्यों नहीं हो रहा है फिर?
हो रहा है. जो succeed कर रहा है वो इसलिए succeed कर रहा है because वो कर रहा है. हमने फर्जी कैफे कम से कम 15 बार मेन्यू चेंज कर दिया, 10 साल की ब्रांड है.
पूरा ओवरऑल 100% नहीं, because
radical changes. 20%, 30%, that's enough. Signatures can never be taken away. I'm not going to remove the dal chawal arancini or the farzified vada pav. I'm not going to change these dishes. But will I keep adding new things? Yes. So you got to keep giving something new. You got to keep spending energy, time, and even money on ensuring that the mind space of a consumer is occupied, because there's so much clutter in this world. There's so much happening in people's lives. They're not worried what Masala Library is doing now or tomorrow. You have to show it to them. To put it in their face through advertising, through one-on-one reach outs, through personalized phone calls from your manager. You know, sir, Mr. Kalra, you've not been to the restaurant, your favorite restaurant. We're waiting for you. We just announced a new heritage menu. Why don't you come and try it out? That personalized call is almost a guarantee that he'll book the table.
True.
So you have to constantly innovate. You have to constantly reach out. Your CRM, customer relationship management activities have to be super technical. It's a very technical business.
Yeah.
It's a very systems oriented business. If you don't plug the holes, you will lose everything. You will not make any money. So the dependence on systems in the restaurant space is more than even in the any other form of retail. No form of retail. तो phone तो यार counted होते हैं. Apple का store है 10 phone है 10 गिन लिए. हमारे 50 holes होते हैं. उन हर hole को plug करना पड़ता है. खाना कहीं से आ रहा है, ड्रिंक्स बन रही हैं, फूड वेस्टेज हो रही है नहीं हो रही, फूड बिना बिल के पंच हो रहा है नहीं हो रहा, कंज्यूमर ने जो वापस करा वो वाकई में वो डिजर्विंग था या नहीं था. सो देयर आर जस्ट सो मेनी permutations, combinations, so the requirement and dependence on systems is even greater. That's why I'm saying it's a very complex. Why is there no tycoon who's ever entered the food space? Think about it. No major tycoon has ever entered the food space.
Strange, मैं अभी आपने बोला तो मेरे दिमाग में आया.
Because it has to be the only thing you ever do if you want to succeed in it. I don't have any side business. I only deliver food and I sell food in restaurants. There's no third thing I do. Because if I start doing a third thing, my attention will be divided, my team's attention will be divided, and I will probably not succeed at any of these. So it's very important to remain focused, and that's the reason why the dependence on systems is critical. So I did my MBA only to get into the restaurant business. So I did my MBA in finance and other things and information systems and all that, but the purpose was to arm myself with the business knowledge and an American way of thinking. And the American way of thinking is very good because it teaches you two things. Rely on systems and believe in the process, and B, never think boutique, think at large scale. These are the two things I learned from the MBA. Nothing else that they taught me I had not already done in 12th. And ethics. The first class I did my MBA in Boston, in Bentley University. First class before the semester even started was ethics. That's how seriously they take it. The ethics training in India में ज़रूरी है. अभी भी थोड़ी ethics है. I mean, Indians are great businessmen, and we have to. If you don't keep up to your word or a signed contract, the business world will fail. But the ethics is what is seriously needed in any form of business, but especially in ours.
My last question to you. We'll just quickly wrap up. हाँ, time भी थोड़ा सा गड़बड़ हो रहा है. You have to rush somewhere. हमारे पास Sunburn है, NS7 है, इतने बड़े-बड़े music festivals है. Why don't we see like a huge ass food festival? जितने होते हैं वो ठंड में दिल्ली में होते हैं वो you'll also understand मैं किस इंटेंट से बोल रहा हूँ. वो वाली वाइब नहीं है जो कि एक NS7 या Sunburn या Tomorrowland में होती होगी. Why don't we see such big? इंडिया में इतने food lovers है. You only mentioned कि
food is much bigger than music.
Yeah, any day. फिर क्यों नहीं हो रहा?
So it's not the same thing. एक artist आया और उस artist के चक्कर में 10,000 लोग आ गए. But आप restaurant में एक restaurant के चक्कर में 10,000 लोग नहीं आएंगे. आपको 100 restaurant लगाने पड़ेंगे.
But उसको fuse करके maybe एक artist को.
So it's happening. It's not happening at the large scale because there are so many moving parts. A festival is based on the restaurants or caterers or delivery specialists that are choosing to become a part of it. So it's dependent on many moving parts. And as a result, it's more complex than a music festival.
No, but out of India, जैसा Oktoberfest है. Oktoberfest पूरे globe से लोगों को एकदम pull कर लेता है because वो इतनी बड़ी legacy बन चुका है. सब beer पीने पहुंच गए हैं. लेकिन इंडिया में मतलब इतने फूडीज है, पूरी दुनिया जहाँ के लोग यहाँ खाना खाने आते हैं, एंड हमारे यहाँ ऐसा कुछ नहीं है.
होना चाहिए. आई थिंक उस लेवल का नहीं, अक्टूबर फेस्ट लेवल का तो कुछ भी नहीं है.
कुछ भी नहीं.
कुछ है दिल्ली में होते हैं, कुछ और होते हैं, बट बहुत ही लार्ज स्केल का कुछ भी नहीं है. आई थिंक जोमा लैंड भी है, एक पैलेट फेस्ट है, सो 3-4 हैं जो बहुत अच्छा काम करते हैं. बट एक्सक्यूज मी, बट यू राइट, कोई इतना बड़ा नहीं है जो इस लेवल का हो, जैसे 10,000 15,000 लोग नहीं, 10-15,000 लोग तो आते हैं कि 50,000 पीपल आ जाए. अब दिलजीत दोसांझ आ रहा है तो स्टेडियम बिक जाते हैं. सो व्हाई नॉट मैरी म्यूजिक विद फूड. अब दिलजीत दोसांझ को भी ले आओ, बादशाह को भी ले आओ, अच्छे हमारे जो आर्टिस्ट हैं उनको भी ले आओ, इंडियन आर्टिस्ट को ले आओ, और आप साथ में खाना भी लगा दो. तो मेरे ख्याल से हो रहा है. आई थिंक यू राइट. सो दैट स्केल इज नॉट देयर. So because it's more complex, you have to have many different restaurants.
और जब एक रेस्टोरेंट में 50 होल्स है तो वहाँ सोच लीजिए 50,000 होल्स होंगे.
Correct. So it's also you know, म्यूजिक बज रहा है, 10,000 लोग एंजॉय कर रहे हैं. यहाँ पे आपको एक एक कस्टमर को खाना बना के देना होता है. So the complexity is far more. And there are many different third parties involved. In, like for example, if Sunburn has to do an event, it has to organize 30 artists and their logistics. Here you have to organize 300 restaurants and their logistics, give them cooking space. You have to set up a bar, you have to make sure all the legalities of that bar are sorted. Is there fire safety or not? Is there, वो तो खैर सब जगह होता है. There are so
general safety.
General safety, food safety. Every kitchen is cooking their own food. There's a lot of complexity involved. But would I like to see something as big as Oktoberfest in India? I would love it. I would love to help organize it. I would love to rally the body, NRAI, which I am a part of. Which is the largest body that represents restaurants across India. We can obviously, they already participate and help, but yeah, things like that should happen. So I totally agree with you. You've given us a good idea, a good seed of an idea to help grow.
मैं आएगा, मैं भी आएगा साथ में, don't worry.
आपको आना चाहिए, should cover it, spread the word. Yeah.
On that note, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया for having this conversation. It was lovely to chit chat about you. मतलब सवाल तो अभी n number of सवाल है मेरे दिमाग में, but some other day. I guess this is it for this episode of Wassup, Aabir. Thank you very much. ZK.
Thank you so much.
Urf Zorawar Kalra. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.